It's a Nilfgaard imprisonment mirror. And they're both playing... Oh, wait, no, that's not a mirror. I thought they were both playing a mirror for a second. I was like, wait a second. That's like budget a mirror.
The Nilfgaard mirror matchup. Not something I've seen too much of. I think this is our first time seeing it today. Haven't seen it too much with the new Blightmakers. Bribery for Pajabol versus the Enforcers and Ramon for Lord Triss. The bribery roll could be all important. Imagine that bribery onto a Brathans. That would be completely and utterly filthy Jaggerous.
It's going to be a filthy bribery, I think, regardless of how you play it. And Pajabol also with double Blightmaker in the opening hand. You know, just for that BM. Ramonski, good old Ramonski coming out here for Lord Triss, getting a Impera onto the board, ready to start shooting holes in Pajabol's strategy. And this armor a little bit annoying, right? Because if you play the Blightmaker now, you're going to be pinging into armor. So you're losing out a little bit on the value of that play. But if you're Pajabol, you don't have a huge amount of other options. You can lock, I guess, the Impera and wait to see what happens. But it's still a risk that the armor's going to eat some damage at some point.
It's a big, aggressive start in this one from Lord Triss. Not messing around, looking to get some authority, and then following up with a second engine. Not deterred by the first one being locked, the Enforcer is going to be pinging down this Sergeant again. But then, you know, Pajabol, he does have the second lock. The risk with those there are some of your aristocrats. So if you go down that route, you maybe worry a little bit about your Masquerade Bull. You've also got leader charges for locks. You could have chosen to do that, use the leader charge instead. But, you know, leader charges, if you use one and your opponent doesn't, then they're technically up in terms of carryover going into round 2. Okay, and yeah, the armor on the board, as you mentioned, these Blightmakers, cards you certainly want to be playing in round 1 in order to thin your deck, but it's going to be a 1 in 3, a 33.3333% chance. I could have continued.
3. Yeah, that's true. Whereas Lord Triss, you know, he's got a 50-50 on whether he hits armor or not, but if he hits armor, he's only losing out on 1 point should he go for Blightmakers, but opting instead for the poison onto the Nausicaa Sergeant.
Yeah, it's just another engine for Lord Triss. His first 2 have been locked, but this Cupbearer is an engine in its own right. It's an offensive, aggressive engine, but will it hit the armor? It will hit the armor. The 50% chance doesn't go in Pajabol's favor, and this Ramonski played for 8 points. I guess it played for 9, but also then the armor it played for 8. It played for the same amount as a Blightmaker usually does. That's pretty good so far.
Oh yeah, Ramon, how many provision cards? It plays for the same amount as a Blightmaker. The thing is, Pajabol, he's got another Blightmaker in pocket, so he's got a really nice starting hand to just jam some tempo. Like Lord Triss, he can respond with his own Blightmaker, which it looks like he's doing here. But in doing that, he's still got the follow-up poison, but that's his only Blightmaker, right? So now all the Blight has been made, effectively.
It's the Nausicaa that's poison, it could hit as well. Manages to dodge the armor in the back row as well for a perfect 11-point Blightmaker. Pajabol going for his second one. Doesn't hit the Ramonski. A bit of Mage Assassin on Mage Assassin action here. Leaning up.
I'm just waiting for the duck. We only have one premium Mage Assassin, so, you know, we only get one option for a duck. But I'm ready for it.
Yep, the
fan.
fan.
Oh, there it is!
Did you see it?
There!
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I saw the duck. Oh, quick rewind.
Jack, did anybody else see it? I missed it.
I saw it. If you go back in the stream, you'll see it. It'll be the bit where I go, woo!
And importantly, Paya is just still 1 point behind here. Really an aggressive start from Lord Triss with this Ramon, applying a lot of pressure. Both Blightmakers thinned by Paya. Handful of gold cards, though. Of course, could use a leader charge to set up a coup, but not going to be ideal. Far from it. We might expect to see a bribery or something of that nature coming in. It's definitely going to be a commitment from Paya.
Yep. Opting for the Brathans instead for the commitment. Has the option of the Enchantress onto the Blightmaker. If he has mages in his list, you know, it's always nice that you can get the 3 points. But even doing this, you're improving your draws. Oh, and he's got a Cow Carcass, so he picked a special card.
Yeah, the lesser spotted Rot Tosser coming in is just a Cow Carcass. You don't often see the Blightmaker having taken this option, but it is going to be...
It's not Scrapple, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's gonna
Invo,
be.
I think.
Does that trigger?
I think it's just spells.
Yeah, I was gonna say does.
So I think
it
it'll
just
be
spells? I
Invo,
was gonna
yeah.
say that spells or specials. Yeah.
I think it's just
I think Invo's
spells. I could be wrong, though.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah, the Rot Tosser, buffing the Brathens by an extra point because it is not in the starting deck. And threatening, of course, a follow-up Fangs, which, while Paya doesn't have the Fangs, he does have an Informant on the board, which can be cooed. And there is, of course, a Fangs on the side of Lord Triss. So a very nice Cow Carcass Blightmaker. The first time I've seen this one. Very heads-up play from Paya. It's very easy to forget that's an option.
Yeah, it's also bribery, right? So if he briberies into a poison, he's got a poison on something, right? So that's an option. Chat saying it's on all specials, so potentially, we may see a scenario. We'll find out when he top decks. Let's be real. I thought it was all specials. You're leading me astray. And I like this. So instead of finding a Blightmaker, Lord Triss opting to create one using the Brathens into the Blightmaker, thinning his second mage, I would imagine, which we see now. Jesus Christ, this is a long sequence of events.
Yeah. I am not messing around. The coup. The leader charge and coup onto the Brathens. This is a great play you can make with this imprisonment leader. Yet again, combining with coup. And yet another Rot Tosser. Cow Carcass.
Yeah, I like it. It's a nice little heads up play there. And I don't know if he picked the same card because if it's Invocation and he can make his draws basically Invocation and Masquerade Ball. Basically, put those because you put one on top of the other. Alternatively, he could have picked Masquerade Ball twice if he wants to just ensure that's on the top of his deck. But either way, that is a huge play. And those poisons, you can't block both of them. I don't think you can even block one of them realistically with Lord Triss's hand.
Yeah, the row is in fact full as well. So no real way around this from Lord Triss unless you can find a way to destroy the Rot Tosser. The Rot Tosser is going to be playing for 8 points here. Of course, Lord Triss did block the Cupbearer from being poisoned with the placement of the Blightmaker to keep his engine, his 7-point card alive. But the Rot Tosser still going to be poisoning 2 cards at once. Invo! I believe that was on a Brathens. And Paya finally has the pass, and he snaps that pass up. He takes it with both hands. The Emissary is only going to be 6 points. It's not going to be enough on its own, but followed up by a leader charge, it will just about get there. Both players using a leader charge. Lord Triss using Invo, but gaining a Brathens as compensation and securing last say in this matchup.
Yeah, so chat pointing out that it's special cards, so not artifacts, but coup de grace, that's a special card. Dead Van Tongue, that's a special card. Invocation. I mean, I feel like that was just luck, that third special card there. It wasn't like a triple Rot Tosser, so who knows? I give up at this point.
And looking at the hands from both players, quite gold heavy. Paya, in fact, deciding to ditch the Dead Man's Tongue at this point, deciding he has the cards that he needs, but doesn't really have that dry pass card.
Yeah. He needed a dry pass card. That's what he's going for there. He's trying to find something that will give him the option to dry pass, and he didn't find it. I mean, what's your worst card in that scenario? Bribery, I guess?
I would say probably the Fergus. It is an aristocrat, of course, which could be quite important. But Vincent's still available off Roderick, and yeah, Lord Triss takes the pass, and Paya's going to be feeling rather sad that he wasn't able to find a worse card. But of course, with the Echo of Coup, as well as putting the 2 specials seemingly on top, kind of snooked himself a little bit in the end, having to pay this Fergus. It's not the end of the world, but certainly it's points on your Thirsty Dame, on your Seditious Aristocrat. All these cards just became a lot worse.
And still no Masquerade Ball for either player. If you get through enough gold cards, you do have Roderick, so you can find your Masquerade Ball that way. But at the moment, neither player with, I guess, the hand that they particularly want. Pajabol mulliganing into that Nausicaa Sergeant. I don't think that's what he was after. That extra Blightmaker now kind of a dead card into a Seditious Aristocrat. So he's got 2 Aristocrats there. Into... Ooh, a Duchess. These are pretty even hands, I would say.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. The bribery here versus an amnesty. You would favour Pajabol. Having said that, Lord Triss does have last say in this matchup, which could be good news for him. The Usurpers often in Nilfgaard mirrors can be used to clog your opponent's side of the board. But we only have an 8-card round. It's not a 10-card round. So both players might feel as though they have enough cards to not clog. And especially with Dead Man's Tongue being a card as well that's not putting points on the board. Well, Jack, there is the option of Dead Man's Tongue banishing that Masquerade Ball for 15 points. But of course, I feel as though both players would prefer to play the Masquerade Ball from the Roderick.
Yeah, with that said, Pajabol's only got one aristocrat in hand, right? So if he's going to go down that route, he needs to then use the bribery to create an aristocrat, or he needs to lock and coup de grace an aristocrat. Like, he needs to find an aristocrat somehow, and there's not really good ways of doing it. Lord Triss opening here with the Brathens, I'd imagine onto the Informant with the copy on the Nautical Sergeant.
Yeah, and will we see the same play Pajabol has gone for many times? The leader charge into a coup de grace, shutting down the engine that is Brathen's while playing an engine of his own. Of course he does. It's the Pajabol special. The imprisonment leader charge into the coup. He absolutely loves it. And there's no leader charges for Lord Triss.
Yeah, because Lord Triss just used his leader charge to lock the Nausicaa Sergeant. You know, he went for a different route, used the lock on the Sergeant, maybe thought, you know, this is the best lock target I'm going to get, or make hay while the sun shines. But in doing so, it denies him the ability to cycle that Brathens quite cleanly.
And it does seem as though Pajabol strikes first in this matchup. However, Fergus can give that spying tag to Brathens, which would then open the coup back up. But there's no Masquerade Ball found off Roderick. Wasn't given as an option for Triss.
So yeah, no Masquerade Ball whatsoever for Lord Triss in this scenario. He can go again, right? He has the option to go again with the Roderick. Pajabol's Roderick, there's 4 choices. There's Vincent, there's Bull, there's Vincent, Bull, Cupbearer, and one other card.
I think we just saw the Vincent being banished. Yeah. Maybe it was a different card, but it looked like this Informant was boosted by 10 points, improving the odds on the Roderick finding the Masquerade Ball that he desires. And of course, while he only has one aristocrat in hand, he has the opportunity to find one with the bribery, and this Informant as well can be used on one of Lord Triss's aristocrats. Is it possible that Lord Triss plays his aristocrat last? Well, here comes the option of the Masquerade Ball. Will we see it being played? Surely we will.
Yeah, he's got 2 aristocrats. Of course, at that situation, you're going to go for it. And it's quite nice for Pajabol also, because Triss is going to play a bronze aristocrat. It means that Pajabol can find an additional aristocrat. Well, now with the Thirsty Dame or with the Seditious Aristocrat. So we'll see ball for ball, some ball-on-ball action here, as Pajabol says, whatever you do, Pajabol, whatever you do, I can do also.
And it's an 8-point game at the moment. In terms of engines, of course, well, it's an 8-point game, but Lord Triss having the extra card. Both have a Dame, both have a Sergeant, but Pajabol does have a Brathens on the board. So 1 extra engine in favour of Pajabol. Having said that, there's also an awful lot of spying tags on the side of Pajabol, and this Seditious Aristocrat could play for a lot of points here. There does seem to be a bit of a connection issue. I hope, Jag, it's going to sort itself out.
I haven't been informed of any disconnect, so I'm going to say yes. And it does! It does, hooray. So Lord Triss now, though, has his Duchess Informant, can also copy an aristocrat, should he wish.
And here comes the first of the Fangs of the Empire, poisoning the Thirsty Dame. Pajabol replying in a similar fashion, using his own Informant onto Lord Triss's Thirsty Dame, mirroring each other's moves. It is now a 10-point game. However, Lord Triss does have 1 extra card. This Amnesty, though, not looking like it's going to be popping off too much. Bribery, soon to be played as well. What will the bribery roll?
The bribery is kind of a big crux in this situation. The Amnesty is not so hot, right? And here's the bribery. Fergus with triple spies?
It could have been a lot better. It really could have been a lot better. There's the option of a Fangs.
You have to work out the poisons.
Goes for a Fergus. It's not great, is it?
But it's not terrible. He's at 58 points to 42. You can't be like, oh, it's not great. Bear in mind, that's a 10-point invocation. And then I guess you say the usurpers are even. Amnesty, what's Amnesty taking? A 2?
Yeah, it's looking like he's going to be on the Rodders. Of course, it is a devotion deck, so it is going to be buffing itself as well. Usurper, of course, many times in this mirror, you just see the Usurper float and not be clicked, but board space, not relevant in this one. The Seditious Aristocrat is popping off here, though, for Lord Triss. 14-point game.
And if you wait on the amnesty, now you have a 3-point target, so you get a little bit more value on that. But 60 points to 74. Dead Man's Tongue, though, be careful what you buff here, because Invocation is a card. Ideally, you pick your highest provision cost card here, right? Assuming that Joachim is worth more provisions than 2 bronze cards together, and you buff your lowest card. So that's the correct choice there from Lord Triss. But this 12-point Invocation versus a pretty sad amnesty.
What an interesting round of Gwent. Nilfgaard mirrors are some of the finest forms of Gwent as long as board space doesn't become an issue. That's when these mirrors turn a little bit disgraceful and a little bit dodgy. But this was a great opening game in the losers bracket final, and Pajabol strikes first in the Nilfgaardian mirror. Bribery coming out on top over Ramon and Amnesty.
I feel like you're quite unfortunate. If you're Lord Triss and you lose the winners bracket final and then lose the losers bracket final, that probably feels the worst, right?
Yeah,
I feel like that's the worst way, because you're so close twice. That's the situation. So you got to feel for Lord Triss at this stage. He's one game down, right? So it's not over by any case of the imagination. But if he does lose this series, that's going to feel really awful. Whereas I think for Pajabol, I guess it sucks, but Pajabol tends to be in this situation a bit more regularly than Lord Triss.
Will we see Doragray for Pajabol? Because I noticed this because there seems to be a tactical advantage on the board instead of a Crystal Skull greeding out that one extra point at the risk of being locked. Doesn't look like at this moment in time, certainly not in the opening hand, Pajabol doesn't have Doragray, and there's no discards available for him either. So this is the hand Payabol's stuck with and is not going to be able to punish. So this decision for tactical advantage works out in this situation. Merlin available as well. That's going to be gaining patience, and guess what, Jag? Patience wins wars. That is going to be a fantastic target for Shani later on. But an aggressive start from Lord Triss with a shielded Ballista.
Yeah, and this current hand for Pajabol for round 1 is trash. It's such a bad hand because you don't really have bronzes you particularly, like a lot of bronzes you want to play, right? He's got the Greatsword, but he doesn't have the Megascope. He's got a Hunter. He's got a Gutting Slash, and that's about it, really, when you think about the state of the hand. So it's not really a hand for round 1, which means I feel like we might not see too much played, but then you're giving Northern Realms control. And I feel like that's horrific too. You're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't with this hand.
And a very greedy decision from Pajabol to play his Greatsword here without any leader charges. This is, I suppose, a benefit of just playing one Megascope. Doesn't feel the need to have to copy this Greatsword and keep it alive. Often you'll commit a leader charge to keep it alive. But of course, a Boiling Oil with the Ballista on the board is going to be giving 7 removal range because of the resupply ability of the Ballista gaining that extra charge. So actually a pretty heads-up play. The leader charge would have done very little here for Pajabol. Such is the synergy between the oil and the Ballistas.
And I think in some ways Pajabol also just trying to, bait the oil there. He doesn't have the Megascope. He doesn't really mind if the Greatsword dies. It can always be resurrected, later down the line, potentially, with Harold. So there's options there. Actually, does he have Harold in this list?
Not in this one, but it does give Hjalmar. Hjalmar now has that 10 removal range, which is going to be nice for Paya for certain. And Hunter played by Paya, and this is where I really like the inclusion of reinforcements in Lord Triss's deck. Again, has that resupply value, and these ballistas are just so very good that it just seems absolutely worth it to include this 6 provision warfare card to get another copy.
Yeah, they're going to be going ballistic. And I think Pajabol, he's at 3 and done. I don't see this round going any other way, given the current board state, right? There's 2 ballistas, one with a shield on the board. Pajabol has literally nothing on the board and a 20-point deficit. He doesn't have a good discard package, so he can't just jam tempo like that, and yet Pajabol's like, I'm done. Let's pretend this round never happened.
Yeah, and while it looks bad for Paya giving up the first round to Siege, ultimately it wasn't the cheapest of rounds. And Adalia are reinforcements committed, so just less engines available for Lord Triss. in this round. But if you're a siege player, you want first say. You want to get your engines up and running and apply that board pressure with your siege engines, with your bombardment as well, played from siege. So fully expecting Lord Triss to make some sort of a push here, with first say just being a big benefit with these engine type decks. I'm ready for him to make me eat my words and pass, but I'm confident he's going to search for that siege with his leader, and he's going to make some sort of a push here.
Gonna play a couple cards at least. You know, he's at 9. Pajabol not taking any mulligans. He has 2 discard targets. He has 1 discard in hand with Coral, so access to 1 discard. So maybe needing to get a little bit lucky in the way that this round plays out. You know, if this round goes all the way, Pajabol could end up in a scenario where he has to play a discard target from hand, which isn't really what you want to see. But opening up with a Raider. Meanwhile, the patient Bernard just chilling on the board for now.
Lord Triss deciding to go for a different line instead, fancying his chances in a long round, but making sure to get value off the patience of the Bernard student Merlin here. Going to be a nice option for Shani later, as well as use his Amphibious Assault, which is an Echo card. Essentially, this Assault here is trading for this Coral, and it's a free trade for Lord Triss. This is why Amphibious Assault is such a great card, because you can use it twice, and it's a fantastic amount of tempo as well. Yeah, just fancies his chances of the long round. This means Pajabol will have first say, which if you're, again, a siege player, you would prefer to be going first. But at the same time, with Heatwave available for Pajabol, I suppose it does make sense to play the siege in round 3 because you're just going to trade up on the Heatwave with this reinforced trebuchet.
And Pajabol, no discard once again. Morkvarg still in hand. Keeps the Morkvarg, takes the mulligan. Maxi, not what you want to see. Goes once more. No discard for Morkvarg.
Ouch. That is rough. I mean, Morkvarg is this is sort of his way of striking back to Jagera. She talked him up all day, but this is unfortunate for Paya. He risked it. He kept those mulligans. He said he needs to find the discard cards. It doesn't happen for him, and he's going to be feeling rather sad about that. However, Morkvarg played from hand does have one thing going for it, which is that if it dies, it will summon itself back from the graveyard. And with random damage from bombardment, maybe it dies. I doubt it, though, because the siege will probably be heat-waved.
And bear in mind that mulligan, it could also have hit a Twirsec, right? So he could have had 2 dead cards in his hand. He went for a risky mulligan, went all in on it. You know, didn't find his lock either. There was a lock in there as well that could have been pretty locky, I guess, all things considered, and didn't find that. But we see, I believe, is that a pincer maneuver?
I think it is. Foltest has his sword ready to be drawn, so I think a leader... in fact, you can't actually leader at 10 cards, so I think we were just looking at the deck.
Oh, looking at the deck. Yeah.
I mean, the bombardment cleans up the hunter quite cleanly here. Wouldn't be too surprised to see that, or maybe even a Margarita. There's not an abundance of lock options for Lord Triss in this matchup. See what is decided.
Oof. These roping players, it stresses me out. Was that intentional?
No. Can't have been, right?
Because now you Kalmar.
Lord Triss.
I mean, I guess
he's made it to the losers bracket final, but is this a crumble under pressure from Lord Triss? Floating the Margarita, but not being punished by Pajabol. Maybe Lord Triss had this all under control all along. I'm quite surprised, again, that this wasn't cleaned up by a Junod or something like that. I'm very confused at the start to this round 3. Didn't go how I was expecting it to.
And now I'd assume we lay siege to the castle that is Skellige. They have a castle. What's the Skellige castle called? Not Cairn Caddock. Not Caddock. I feel like there's a castle in Skellige that you go to where Bran lives. Cair Trollda. There, see? Chat will always know the Witcher lore. You could be like, what is this obscure character called that appears for 3 seconds in Witcher 1? Someone in chat will know the answer.
Morkvarg getting locked because, of course, this trebuchet can be dealing damage to it throughout the round. And there's actually a very good chance. I love the placement of the Morkvarg from Paya. He's most likely still going to heatwave the siege, but he might even just decide to heatwave a ballista instead and remove an engine. But yep, is going to be pinging down this trebuchet with his hunter, invest the leader charge, and We'd be expecting to see a flurry of leader charges enter the board once some more of Lord Triss's engines enter. He still has the Junod, the Hjalmar, as well as ways of cleaning up these engines.
Yeah, so I guess the Margarita not a mistake in the end. I mean, he's locked the Hunter survived to shoot another day. The Morkvarg has been locked. Is Morkvarg a beast? Does he count that timer down? I guess not. He's probably So they would have delayed the timer slightly.
There's Hubert flying out of the deck after 10 orders have been used. The Ballista on the front row activated. And Pajabol. Here comes the flurry. He misses the Ballista. He might have been looking for a Junod on this reinforced Ballista, but that's not going to be an option if he misses it all. However, Avalak is coming in here to save the day and can clean up the reinforced Trebuchet on the back with a little bit of fog. Now, I know fog damaging the lowest unit. It doesn't look right to me, but it is the way it is, and I'm glad it is as well. It just seems, it just takes a long time for me to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I think Pajabol definitely fogged up a little bit with that play. It works out fine for him. The Reckless Flurry not quite where he wanted it to be, but removing one engine here, still a nice option. And Natalis being the choice for Lord Triss here with the pincer maneuver, plus the pocket there for Foltest Pride. I think he'd be proud of that play.
Yeah, and a 1 point misplay here from Pajabol. Didn't see the Foltest Pride coming. And places Avalak basically had 2 cards adjacent to the card that was going to be damaged, which was the Hunter, therefore giving 1 extra point to Foltest Pride. But the Junod cleaning up the Foltest Pride. Reckless Flurry, of course, ignoring that armor, putting the leader ability to great use here. And it is a tied game as it stands. Fog on the board, though, for 1 more turn. And a card extra for Lord Triss. And what a hand it is for Lord Triss as well.
This is where the fog is, I suppose, slightly annoying, though, because it's going to hit a 1 point of damage rather than the 2. But when you're using it to clean up a trebuchet, it works out as more points overall, so it's a worthwhile endeavor. Triss now comes out to play, resurrecting the Karak Marine. Are we going to see a boost? I would imagine so.
Yeah, Adrenaline 4, there's the real threat of Bear Witches at this moment in time. Not able to boost either Shani or the Reinforced Ballista outside the range of Hjalmar, though, with the Great Sword in the graveyard for Paya. So I would expect to see... Yeah, I was going to say, I was expecting him to see not an engine boosted, but I eat my words as that is the Ballista boosted, which I think is a bit of a misplay. Pajabol not messing around here with the Hjalmar. So 4 points, you could argue, wasted here, giving Paya a real reason to invest his Hjalmar, which could be dealing more damage, to kill an engine as well. So certainly not completely optimal plays from either player in this round 3.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think boosting the engine was the correct play by any stretch. I mean, maybe you're worried it's going to get removed in some other way, but still, it's quite a lot. And a very quick casting contest. It turns out Karak Marine is the best caster in Gwent, as he boosts. He makes, a different... doesn't make the same mistake twice as he boosts up the Volunteer there to 5. But it was a bit late. The damage is already done.
I think it was a bit of a roping situation. There wasn't much time left. He was thinking, I'm going to float the Marine, and then realised the Bear Witcher was coming in and had to make a decision, and probably swiftly realises it wasn't quite the motive. But these things happen. Gwent is a very complicated game, and these guys are under a lot of pressure at the moment. But it's just a 1 point game, Jag, as it stands. Amphibious Assault coming in. Remember, of course, the totem is down on the board, ready to be clicked for Paya, but this card is going to mean that both players have 3 cards in hand after this. So the Ballista, front row on the Ballista, making use of that damage. The totem ready to be clicked, 10 point advantage to Lord Triss. However, totem on the board, leader charge available for Pajabol. This Axie isn't looking great, though, I have to say. The Axie's looking rather weak here.
Yeah, the Axie, it was available on the Morkvarg there for a heal until Morkvarg got killed by NR. I guess you can reset a boosted unit, right, on Lord Triss's side. It's okay. It's better than Baron, let's be real. Yeah,
it could definitely be worse, for sure. And Paya is going to need to make sure he does play around that Baron, as you mentioned, not damage this Margarita down any further, because Baron is just going to be used on Lord Triss's own side of the board. Expect Gerhardt to be the last card that is played, playing a pact, unless Lord Triss has a license to go for patience with Gerhardt. That could also be an option. There are a couple of doomed units on the opposite side, which is one now after the oil. So we might even see the first Will-O-Wisp in Gwent Masters. That card has never been played. I think it's just Will of the Wisp. I call it Will-O-Wisp because of the Pokemon move, admittedly.
No, does it not have an O and an apostrophe?
I think it's Will of Wisp. Will of the Wisp. I don't think it is Will-O-Wisp.
Will of Wisp. That doesn't
Something
seem
like
grammatically
that.
correct.
Chat will know.
As a teacher, I feel like you would know whether that was grammatically correct or not, obviously, because teachers know everything. Will of the Wisp. You got it. I don't know. Will of the Wisp sounds wrong. Like, that just doesn't sound right.
There is the Axie. It's going to reset this Marine from 8 to 3. Resetting the damage or the boost that the casting contest had on the Marine. And Lord Triss is just 3 points behind. He does have a card extra as well. Baron can be played in the back row for an extra point, but Gerhardt could also be played for patience in hopes to achieve a 5 provision spell. However, with the fact that this Bear Abomination is only at 3, I don't really think there's actually any better cards than a pact at 5 provisions. So Gerhardt kind of being rewarded for being impatient here, I would imagine. We see the Baron back row, and the impatient Gerhardt is going to be playing a pact for a 13-point finisher.
This is a close one. Right, we've got 3 points in the leader. Gerhardt 13 odd. Geralt plays for what, 10?
Could we see the ballista being
more than
sniped,
that,
Jag?
The 3 damage as well. Plus, there's the heal on the church, the Holy Church of Skellige. This is close. I'm not going to call it. Don't do the maths. Maths is overrated.
I want to see the flurry high roll this ballista and Pajabol to go for it, but we'll see if that is the line that he decides to go for. There's no real reason not to do it, I suppose. Maybe he might be fearing a casting contest
The reset.
and wants to clean up the Marine through the reset.
Yeah, the thing is, if you've got the Baron reset, if you go for it and you miss it, then that's a better value. And it turns out Flurry only hit the ballista once, so I think the correct move there. If you've done 3 damage to that ballista, that's a much nicer Baron target. Here's the Gerhardt. And
Are we going to see the teleportation?
Is enough.
Oh no, I thought the Marine was still on the board, that the teleportation BM was a possibility to replay the Marine, but it was already killed by Pajabol, so if he went for teleportation, he would have lost. So that wouldn't have been a very good BM, Jag.
It would be anti-BM. Does that mean you're still going to romance Yennefer on your Witcher playthrough?
Of course. As I said, I was not supposed to romance Kira. I just did it accidentally.
Yeah, but you can get away with it. You can romance Kira and Yen will still love you.
It was an accident. I didn't mean to do it.
It was an accident. I accidentally swiped right. It's not my fault.
And as you can see,
going into this,
Pajabol has the Kira Metz title. He was very unhappy when I found out I romanced his favourite, but never mind. I didn't kill her, at least. I actually sent her to Radovid. Daddy Raddy's gonna go and say hello to her.
He's gonna kill her instead.
Spoilers! I don't know. I've just never done it before.
I don't know, but I feel like sending any witch to Radovid isn't gonna end well for the witch.
Yes, probably not. Probably
like,
not.
I feel like if you ever get the choice to send them anyway, you send them to Kaer Morhen. You know?
That's what I did.
That's the best place to send
I've done that before. I didn't want to kill her, in fairness, so I thought...
You didn't want to kill her, but it's okay if someone else does it.
My chat told me it's actually quite a sad and interesting turn of events if you send her to Radovid, so I wanted to see what happened.
For the record, I don't know what happens if you send her to Radovid. I
can guess as well, to be honest.
But I feel like we ain't stupid in this chat, you know. We ain't dumb. Okay, so moving on to Gwent. Skellige versus Scoia'tael?
Mm-hmm.
Fireball on Skellige once again. Scoia'tael is... Oh, it's this janky Nature's Gift list.
It's the matchup of the control decks. Lord Triss with his ST non-devotion, Battle of the Avalax. Both players have this card. Of course, Lord Triss playing the Nature's Gift to maximise value from his nature cards. Things like Call of the Forest and Council, as well as the Rebukes. And very, very interestingly, he's playing the Dol Blathana Sorceresses, the new Scoia'tael card of choice. Scoia'tael probably getting the short end of the stick of this expansion, I think it's fair to say, compared to the other factions. But this definitely seems like the standout card for them, and interested to see how Pajabol deals with them.
Pajabol, though, he's got Maxi in hand, which makes Burner really nice. And I'm assuming that's Maxi we see played now. So the draw's not hot for Burner right now. You know, you're 5 cards in until you get to the Twirsack. So playing Coral here, you see what you're going to draw into. You know your options for discarding. And you have to decide, is this order of the cards acceptable? Basically.
Having said that, the Dorograte really, really pants against Nature's Gift because of the Dryad's Caress. The Bear Witcher at the bottom is absolutely perfect for Paya because that is something you're going to want to Quen into for maximum Quen value. I don't remember what the top card was, but I'm pretty sure that was not
Raider.
A shuffle. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it was a Raider. So unless he shuffled and Raider was still at the top, I think it's fine. It means that, you know, you're not going to get Coral Burner value, but based on that sequencing, you are going to draw into your Burner targets. So you should be able to find Burner value in a subsequent round, basically, is what you read into that. And that's why Maxi is nice in this scenario. So Pajabol continuing to kind of put pedal to the metal, playing that Raider down onto the board. Lord Triss, his board's looking pretty sad at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a slow start. He obviously got the value from the tempering, giving armor to the Pyrotech. Nice little bit of synergy there. But not been a very aggressive start. Was able to answer the Hunter, but this is what Discard Package does in Skellige. It gives you that extra little bit of juice, that extra bit of tempo in round 1 that you otherwise might be lacking. And Lord Triss, all eyes on him, of course, has this Hammer Dryad, which if he plays, it's just going to get cleaned up by the Raider plus a Gutting Slash. So even with the Leader Charge, the Hammer Dryad, not really an option here. Similarly, the Dolphin Sorceress is just going to get cleaned up by a Gutting Slash and plays 4 points. So a little bit of a sticky situation, but there could be the option for Lord Triss to go for the Fog and try and snipe the Coral. But going for the Naping Shaper instead. That's right, the Naping Shaper.
Drink whenever Specimen mispronounces card. I'm sorry if you can hear someone revving their engine really loudly in the street. I live in a village. Like, what is going on? But Lord Triss...
I suffer similar issues, unfortunately.
Okay, I'll blame you then. Lord Triss, yeah, with the Naping Shaper there, getting a little bit of tempo, but it's not really great. And Pajabol, though, he has now played the Gutting Slash, which makes it a little bit safer for Lord Triss to play a Hammer Dryad or a Sorceress. And Pajabol, his hand's a little bit awkward in this scenario with continuing into this round too far. Lord Triss, though, putting pedal to the metal with the... It's an aggressive play.
Yeah, Pajabol had left this floating bit of damage to have an answer to the Hammer Dryad Leader Charge, as mentioned before. But, yeah, Lord Triss threatening to get ahead here, but the Kadooch and the Leader Charge from Pajabol strikes back, and he's now 8 points ahead. Of course, Vitality is on the board for Lord Triss. Also, just important to remember, if this Dolblafana Sorceress is lower than 4 power, if it's damaged down to 3, 2, or 1 strength, it is not able to create a special card because there's no 3, 2, or 1 provision cards in Gwent.
I was wondering that, or if it's just capped at 4 or above regardless. I feel like it should just be 4 or above, because that seems kind of BM. But Lord Triss, I think hoping with that fog, Jesus Christ, hoping with that fog to kill Coral and really not hitting the mark.
Yeah, the Kadooch getting the value, Coral still on the board. There is a burner ready to go on the deck, but 2 golds in hand isn't ideal. Hammer Dryad comes in with the Leader Charge. Of course, Hammer Dryad is an extra symbiosis. 2 Leader Charges coming in from Lord Triss to stay on top in this one. Will we see the burner of Dreaming? In fact, Paya knows what it's going to be. It's an Axie, and I don't remember the other card, but Paya knows certainly what he would have to discard.
It's not good discard targets, no, because the Morkvarg and the Twirsack were much, much deeper in the list. So if you're going to go for it, I think you have to go for the Geralt, which is what he is doing, playing the Geralt there with the shield. And using the shield, I love to block the fog, playing the Bear Witcher, and creating a very big gap here.
Yeah, Quen into Bear Witcher, a staple card in these non-Devotion Skellige decks. Of course, you get some great cards in Devotion. You get Harold, Skjordal, Ice, but what you do get in non-Devotion is this fantastic Geralt, and making it even better by soaking up some of that fog. And there we go. Pajabol suddenly is a man that can pass. Seems like he's going to do it.
I feel like you passed here. Otherwise, you'd have to maybe lead a charge and hope it hits the Sorceress or the Avalanche.
The Junod isn't terrible here. 9-point Junod. It could be worse, but does take the pass. I love this from Paya. Lord Triss is committed a lot. Forest Protector, Avalak. We've even seen a double leader charge commitment just before. But the Quen really putting in a big shift here. And the rebuke is found from the Sorceress, getting the death blow. That is going to be more than enough points here. And we go into round number 2.
Yeah, it didn't overly matter what the Sorceress hit there. You only needed a couple points either way, so happy with pretty much whatever. Just a little bit of a flair there with the discard. The thing is, though, this Berna is going to be scary if he gets both the discard targets. I'm pretty sure he did, unless I've, like, misunderstood the order of the deck, or he did shuffle. I feel like the draws were not bad to find the burner targets over the course of, 6 draws and 4 mulligans.
Remember, everybody.
You need a dry pass, though.
Maxi was played in round 1. Pajabol knows exactly what the order of his deck is. And by not mulliganing any cards, Jag, he also continues to know exactly what it is. Because those cards that are mulligan, we've touched on it before, can slot themselves in at the top of the deck. That's not going to be an issue for Pajabol unless he discards in round 2. The Great Sword, perfect dry pass card because that is now going to go into his graveyard, meaning Hjalmar has 10 removal. So big dry pass card. Even though it's a 6 provision card, it's essentially a carryover play.
And there's the Twirsec, there's the Morkfog. See, I told you this one. And there's the Totem. I don't think you mulligan here.
No.
I'm going to say no to mulliganing if you're Pajabol. But look at Lord Triss's hand. That is a stacked golden hand as well.
Pella! Yes.
Bye, Pella.
Oh.
He's too OP. He had to mulligan him. Into Gourds. Oof. Jesus. I don't even know how I feel about these hands. Like, bloody hell.
Yeah, Pavko not going to be doing too much. I must say the Figus as well. This is a great example of what Junod does so well. Rather than having to sink your Hjalmar into this Figus, you can go for a leader charge. All you need to do is ping the Figus once. You're going to ignore that armor, and then Junod is going to absolutely clean up. But both players with pretty strong hands. I have to say, I feel like Pajabol is in a pretty good spot here. Having said that, Lord Triss, you couldn't really ask for much more in your hand.
Yeah, it's just massive, some of these plays. Berna with the Morkvarg and the Twirsec. You said I was BMing Morkvarg in the previous game. Well, look at me now. Look at me now, Specimen. Opening up with the Totem just gets some bodies on the board to soak up some damage. Not clicking that, for example, gives you an option. Lord Triss is a little bit awkward, right? Because if you want to try and avoid the Reckless Flurry onto the Figus, you kind of need to get bodies on the board. It's not going to work if you open with the Figus because it plays a 2-point Dwarf and Figus. So 2 of the pings go onto the Dwarf, 1 of the pings goes onto the Figus, and then your opponent can just clear you up with Junod. But then you're kind of delaying whatever engine it is you want to protect.
Yeah, and again, I've touched on it a few times, but Maxi in round 1, Paya has not mulliganed anything. Knows exactly what Burner will pull, and that is the power of Maxi. If your deck is bad, you shuffle it, and if it's perfect, you know it's perfect, and you can make the most informed possible decisions. Rebuke comes in, doesn't get the death blow. Often you want to play another nature card first, and then the Rebuke to get the death blow. That wasn't an option. Forest Protector was committed in round 1 as well, which is just another example of why Pajabol would have been a lot more happy taking this pass in round 1, having seen Forest Protector and those 2 leader charges.
Yep, so here comes Burner into a Skjall and a Heatwave. Heatwave is a big pull, although no last say, I believe, for Pajabol does mean that he can't target the Gourd. With that said, things like Hammer Dryads and whatnot do go relatively tall. Having the removal is nice. You've got the Skjall, and you can always discard the thing that the Skjall picks. And I believe Pajabol doesn't have any more discard targets left, right? Because he played 1 in round 1 and 2 now.
Apparently, Herbie says screenshots are banned in the rules. This is my first I've heard of that. I have to check that. It's quite interesting to know. Pen and paper,
oh no,
seeming the way. Yeah, I know.
Especially I've been taking screenshots every time.
I'm going to blame Crozit. Oh, no. I thought it was a little bit dodgy to take screenshots, and Crozit was like, "No, mate, it's fine." So I'm going to blame Crozit for that one. Sorry, Crozit.
Oh dear, you gotta blame someone at the end of the day. How does Pajabol answer everything? I guess Well, I guess he doesn't. I was going to say with the heat wave, he's got to pick his target. He's got the flurry. He's got the Janod. He's got the Hjalmar. He's got the heat wave. So he does have some answers for things. And now opting. Well, he's just going to Hjalmar it.
Yeah, it was a sensible leader charge from Lord Triss here, meaning that Pajabol would have had to have sunk 2 of his random damage flurry pings into the Janod, into the what's he called, Figus, to get the Janod. So just decides to Hjalmar it instead, and then can Janod maybe the Pavko later down the line or something like that. Lord Triss isn't going to be able to play around it particularly well. Also, Avalak with Rain, for example, could set up a Janod very, very nicely. Now, I do believe that a Skirm was played in round 1 by Pajabol, so I don't think there's the possibility of top decking a Skirm with the Skald here. But so that is definitely one downside of Pajabol's hand here. Here comes the leader, pinging the Pavko just once, absolutely perfectly. No points wasted with this flurry ability.
It's okay. I mean, I did mention the Taurus skirmish here like a few minutes ago, but we'll pretend like he listened to me at some point. And yeah, Janod is really nice there to just clean up the Pavko. And Pajabol, he does have the answers that he needs, for the tools. Lord Triss identifying that you're not going bigger than 6. Just take the heat wave now on a 6. It's all good. And are we gonna rain on the parade?
Boo.
No. Boo.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised to see the Frost come in before the Scald here. Just because now Lord Triss...
You get 3 turns, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's going to play for 3 points, whereas maybe if Lord Triss had to go Tool in the front row, it could have played for 4 points. So a little bit surprised, but yeah.
I mean, is Lord Triss going to find... Pajabol going to find Heatwave value? I guess he will. Lord Triss has to play some sort of unit. But it may be the case that you play the Skeld and you actually find a better target than Heatwave, depending on how Lord Triss sequences this, right? Because if he doesn't play anything particularly tall, your Heatwave's only maybe going to be worth 4 or 5 points. So if you can find something better than that with the Skeld, there may be a situation where you discard Heatwave. Maybe. Because you've still got a leader charge, remember. You've still got 3 points of damage in pocket. Plus the Frost is going to ping for 1.
Where will the Treant land? If it lands in the back row, it's going to give that Frost that extra point. And Pajabol most likely banking on this possibility happening when he took the earlier Frost. Again, Pajabol just showing he knows the lines better than I do, that is for sure. Getting that extra point off the Frost than he otherwise would have. Discarding the Gutting Slash. Heatwave in hand, leader available, and Pajabol not surprised to see the Reckless Flurry deck beating its control brother in the non-devotion Square Tail. And I just want to take a moment as well, Jag, to think about the amount of provisions stuck within Lord Triss's deck. I imagine there's a lot of cards that aren't for provisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. And there was just too much control on the side of Pajabol. He managed to answer all the kind of engine potential of Lord Triss. And it got to that point there where, I'm sitting looking at the board state, and there's 5 points on Lord Triss's side of the board and 30 odd on Pajabol, and you're like, well, there's a Herald, but there's no point even pretending that game was going to go the other way at that stage in the game. And that happens a little bit in Gwent, right? He's played 2 favoured matchups with that list, right? The first one he lost against NR, the second one he's managed to find a win. And now Pajabol's last remaining list is this Northern Realms list, and now it's going up against Imprisonment. And I feel like Nilfgaard, they like to touch your stuff, and Pajabol has a lot of stuff that you can touch, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. As a Northern Realms main for many years, I only played Northern Realms. I hated queuing into Nilfgaard. Soon followed by Philippa as well. She was my next worst nightmare, but quite true to the lore. Northern Realms doesn't stand much of a chance against Nilfgaard usually, but can Pajabol find the lines? He has the Foltest, he has the Dun Banner ready to go, and Jagarus, the Zaniac, has listened to your beg for a gifted sub, and you've got one. Congratulations. This must be a very proud moment for you.
Yeah, it is. I'm just here to beg for subs, so if you want to give me subs to any other channels, I'll be here all week, basically, given how this series is going. Yeah, shout out to Zaniac for the Speci sub. Obviously, I don't like Specimen enough to sub to him myself, and that's why you in chat have to do it for me.
Bribe me, dimwit, you're supposed to bribe me! That was a terrible impression, I bottled it halfway through, but the City Guard is here. One of my favourite cards. What an absolute woman she is. She's got the Veil. She can't be locked by Nilfgaard. And the Marine is going to buff her up to keep that engine ticking.
Yeah, he is simping for that city guard for sure. And it moved. Did he move that? Oh, it was up.
Amnesty
It was
came
an
in.
amnesty, a very quick amnesty. I was like, wait, where's that going?
Yeah,
What's going on there?
This amnesty play seems weird because you want to use amnesty on an engine like a ballista. However, this amnesty is denying the Shani being able to be played onto the marine, which is often one of the best things. And Nilfgaard doing Nilfgaard things, tempoing ahead with the Blightmaker, and then just passing. And Pajabol, if he cannot do this in one, is going to be forced into a long round. However, this Gerhardt is a 13-point play. The assault is also an option. I honestly wouldn't be too surprised to see Gerhardt played here. It could be an awkward card against Nilfgaard because of how good a coup de grace, how good an invo is onto it.
I don't think there's an easy way for Pajabol to do this in one card. He's got a couple points on the city guard from the engine potential. He's got a couple points on Radovid. He can thin the Dunbanner, but that don't think will get him ahead. 12 points is a little bit of a tricky one. And full test, oof.
And not even making more city guards. What is wrong with you, Pajabol? Give your head a wobble, mate. This is disgusting. This is terrible.
I guess he's making more I don't understand. What is going on?
I think the full test is the cheapest way he can do at making the points. He's just saying, I'm going to mulligan my Dunbanners. The full test is just like a big drummer here. I can use a leader charge and it's enough fun. I can save my Gerhardt. I can save my assault for round 3. And he's just going to mulligan the Dunbanners then. Not ideal though.
Yeah. No, it's not ideal. I was going to say you'd have to do some maths, and that's one of the situations where the rope really plays to your disadvantage, right? Because you need to figure out the best way of making those points, and you've got a lot of cards in hand. So when you've got a lot of cards in hand like that, there's a lot of options. So you have to think through a lot of different pathways. And I don't pretend to understand what Pajabol's trying to do, but I do understand here that he's going for a bleed, right? Because he played Siege.
Yeah,
I know that much.
He wanted to do it in one card exactly because he wants to be able to bleed with Siege. I've talked about it before. If you've got this Siege down and you're going first, you can apply so much pressure onto your opponent's side of the board. You certainly don't want to go into a long round against Nilfgaard, and he just valued all those other cards that did it more. I just also want to point out, Jag, the importance the Blightmaker had on this game already. It thinned the deck for Lord Triss, improving his draws. Admittedly, his hand doesn't look good, but it just gave him that extra tempo that traded for Foltest, essentially, this Blightmaker. That's what forced Pajabol to play this big goal. Scenario for scenario. Siege for Masquerade Ball Jaggerus. It's all kicking off in round number 2.
Yeah, basically the Northern Realms are just chilling outside the castle, laying siege to it. Meanwhile, inside the castle, the Nilfgaardians are having a ball. Literally, that's effectively what's going on with the current board state. You can see the party going on Nilfgaard's side of the board. You can see the siege engines amassing on Pajabol's side of the board. How do you feel like these scenarios measure up? Like, who has the advantage in a scenario? I
mean, objectively speaking, Masquerade Ball is a much more powerful card. Having said that, what Siege does brilliantly is exactly this. This Thirsty Dame is not going to be alive for too much longer, that is for sure, because the bombardment is going to come raining down and cleaning it up. Fergus comes in. I suppose the Fergus is one way of keeping the Thirsty Dame alive, putting it up to 8 strength. And suddenly, I've eaten my words, and we see the power of the Masquerade Ball. Will Paya continue on here?
How did they taste?
I beg your pardon?
Your words, you ate them. How did they taste?
Brilliant. Cheers.
Sorry. This is why they asked me to do this for those level of comments. Yeah, the siege scenario, there are a lot of siege engines on Pajabol's side of the board. With that said, though, one is locked, one only hits things on the rage row under the current scenario, and one of them is to get poisoned to death. So although there's a lot of units on Pajabol's side of the board, they're not really doing a huge amount here. Although they do give a lot of value to bombardment, and now she's a 4-point Thirsty Dame.
Yeah, didn't manage to clean up the Thirsty Dame there, Pajabol. And one of these reinforced ballistas has now been answered. However, there is another one where that came from. One leader charge available for both players, of course. Margarita finally coming in and is going to lock the Dame, stopping her from boosting anymore with cards like Usurper, Joachim, Emissary. Definitely a worthwhile lock.
Yeah, the Trebuchet is just sad in its current state. Hitting range units and that, because the problem you have with the siege is you want to opening play it. You want to open with siege, at which point, well, your opponent started stacking the melee row. And I guess when you open with siege as well, your opponent's going to be, or you're running a siege deck, your opponent's going to be stacking the melee row anyway. On the plus side, Pajabol is against Nilfgaard, and space is a little bit of a premium when you're a Nilfgaard player. So maybe that Trebuchet is going to see a little bit of value this round, but it's unlikely. Yeah,
I wonder if maybe something that could help the Trebuchet is a siege engine that works quite similar to Gerd, like a row punish siege engine. So even if the Trebuchet is not ticking, the fact that your opponent has to row stack is going to be a downside. But there's the back row. The range row comes into play with the Mage Assassin spawning in around the row. And speaking of coming from the deck, out comes Hubert. Double Ballista now down on the board.
Lord Triss doesn't have another Aristocrat. Just to point that one out. So that last chapter of Masquerade Ball not going to trigger. So although the Thirsty Dame worth more ultimately than the Trebuchet, one chapter short is quite a lot.
That is a very good point. Either. Unless that's not one. That's a Brathens. Nope. That's a lot of points for this round. But ultimately, it's less points for round 3 if Pajabol decides to take a pass at some point. This Brathens is going to play for an absolute ton of points, though.
It was a spicy unless, and then not to.
There's still a coup. It could still happen.
We talked about this, right? Because is this a Ramon list, Lord Triss? No, it's not, or is it? No, I think it is. Right?
I don't have the deck list after the internet issues earlier. Unfortunately,
I'll check.
I had to restart my PC in a mad rush at one point because it was all going pear-shaped. So, yes, 9-point game. The Joachim, a lot of tempo, but again, the Brathens goes into the back row here, giving even more value to the Trebuchet. A little bit surprised to see that. The Shani, remember, isn't able to play a Marine because of the decision from Lord Triss to amnesty the Marine, but there is a Royal Guard, there is a City Guard in there as well. Both options. Here comes the assault. Giving the resupply as well. It is. Sorry, Jag.
It is the wrong list. So this Masquerade Ball, you talked about this, that it was a little bit short on aristocrats, and we're seeing that happen now with this Masquerade Ball bleed, right? That trap is not going to trigger, and it means that Pajabol has a little bit of room to bleed because this poison here, although he can threaten, and it's not actually going to do anything.
Big moment.
Oh, unless
Joachim comes down. Will we see the Aristocrat of Dreams? It's not an aristocrat. It is a measly cupbearer. Such a great card in many circumstances, but not fantastic here. Having said that, it is going to give value to the second fangs, or the fangs that's in the hand of Lord Triss. So it could have been a lot worse. Working, in fact, in a quite similar way to finding an aristocrat with the fact you get a poison, just like you would with an aristocrat.
Oh, but he's a great chef. He makes delicious stew that either purifies you or poisons you. Honestly, chefs, I don't feel like we should frown upon their profession. I mean, sure, they're not aristocratic, but still. I don't know, if you're Pajabol, do you pass here? Like, your hand is stacked. You've got Varexis, you've got Shani, you've got Gerhardt. Or do you feel like you can push further?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, if you're looking at the fact that Brathens and Cupbearer have been pulled off Joachim, that certainly makes Lord Triss's round 3 worse. You might also begin to be expecting a invo on Joachim, so you want to make sure you're staying 4 points ahead at all times. Having said that, you've got 3 engines on the board. I think you just got to keep going here, right? The Trebuchet is getting value after the, I would argue, misplay of the Brathens in the back row. Here comes Gerhardt. This is going to be a great invo target for Lord Triss for a carryover play. That's a big downside. We could even see the teleportation being played on one of the spies here, but we go for the Pact instead.
Yeah, opting for the Pact there, just boosting up a unit by 6, getting more points on the board. There's the follow-up poison, but it's still not quite enough points. You could take the lock.
The pass is here, right, because of the Trebuchet. So, in fact, Lord Triss is going to be forced here to take the leader charge. Again, this placement of Brathens proving to be a little bit disastrous. That is just less carryover available for round 3 for Lord Triss. 4-point game. Again, Pajabol needs to stay 7 points ahead of Lord Triss because of the threat of invo onto Gerhardt. I still want to see this teleportation on the emissary, but he's boosted it now. It's not happening.
No, it is in fact not happening. But huge amounts of points per turn with the ballistas with the trebuchet still pinging, and that lock onto the trebuchet coming kind of late. 10-point difference. So this invocation's not going to be enough. Usurper would be enough, but then what have you got left in the tank?
Yeah, it's a tough spot for Lord Triss to be in, and also worth mentioning, I'm not 100% sure on the graveyard situation. I know there's a Royal Guard, but you don't get the Zeal on the Royal Guard, I don't believe, even if you play in the front row. I believe you would have to wait a turn. The City Guard, therefore, I believe would be the best. I don't think there's a Marine because of the...
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's just a City Guard, I believe.
I think the Marine was poisoned by the Fangs. Each row has...
Oh, yeah, it was poisoned by the Fangs.
Each row has 7 cards as well, so Shani is able to play the Marine, and that is going to block the Usurper as well. The Usurper is going to find less value than is optimal, unless, of course, the Invo is taken first. So that's not true.
Yeah.
But
no, she should.
Enough?
Misplay, right? Because if he played the, no, does Shani have to go on the range row?
Yeah, no, the Shani has to summons the card into the same row. So
yeah, but could he have played Shani on the front row? No, it wouldn't have worked because then he had no space for the follower.
Here comes Usurper. Is it enough? It's not enough.
No.
Pajabol takes it. Pajabol is the man that gets through to Gwent Open number 3. He takes it 65-65. Lord Triss's leader charge was 1 turn too late, Jaggerus. Payabol's in Open 3. Lord Triss didn't quite make it.
1 turn too late and 1 aristocrat too few. Unfortunately, the Masquerade Bull not lining up to the siege potential, and Pajabol in a heck of a day for him, I would say, managing to defeat Lord Triss. And you got to feel for Lord Triss in that situation, because that game could have gone completely the other way. At 1 point there, and then you've got a series, you've got a game 5, and things could have been completely different. And to lose in the winners bracket final and then the losers bracket final, that's got to hurt. That's got to feel really bad.
Yeah, especially against Aluha and Pajabol. You couldn't really ask for tougher opponents. Tough for Lord Triss, but I'm sure he'll be back. He's been playing some very good Gwent on both the ladder, finishing quite high up, and also getting very far in this qualifiers. And he's got a taste of it. I'm sure he'll be back next weekend in the top 64 qualifiers. Now, as Pajabol won, there's possibly an opportunity, Jag. We might be able to interview Pajabol. I'm not sure if that is a possibility. We'll see if there's anything that could be done on that. Any ideas, Jag? If you could drop him a message, I would be.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, I would message him, but I would unfortunately lose your camera on Discord. So
that's not worth it.
No,
right,
I would agree. So we're going to try and get an interview with the Season 2 Gwent World Masters champion, something like that anyway. See if we can chat with him. See what happened. What was he banning Nilfgaard? And then these Lion Pockets decks caught him off guard. Remember, guys, I was watching yesterday his very first match of the tournament against Wanged, and it was all going wrong. He was cross, he was unhappy, he wasn't playing his cleanest Gwent, he made some mistakes, and he very nearly lost to Wanged. I have to say, Wanged kind of threw the series away in Game 5, and Pajabol scraped through by the skin of his teeth, then making it all the way in the winner's bracket, before being taken out by Aluha, and then fighting back in the loser's bracket, and he made it to Open number 3. He missed out on Open 2, but he is in Open number 3.
Yeah, and it's been a heck of a day of competitive Gwent. It's been a long top 16 qualifiers, we'll say that. We've seen a lot of games of Gwent. We've seen quite a range of decks as well, and different strategies. And ultimately, I guess this Nature's Gift not quite hitting the mark. You talked about this list and how you didn't rate it, and ultimately it didn't come out to play here at the end of the day, as Pajabol and Big Cuckoo Ruzina 35, the first 2 players, I believe, to qualify for Gwent Open number 3.
Yeah, next weekend, everybody, is the top 64 qualifiers. I'm not playing in it, Jag. I know, it's hard to believe. Specimen Gwent not finishing in the top 64. But it's my first time sitting out of one of these. But very much looking forward to seeing who books their place in Open number 3 next weekend. 2 more players, and then in just 2 weeks' time, it is Gwent Open number 2. We are going to be seeing Big Cuckoo Ruzina taking part in that, as well as lots of other top Gwent players.